Let's start the song. You know? What do you think?
Sure.
Just okay. Oh, there might be a bit of foot tapping. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. She comes from Ireland, she's very beautiful. I come from Brisbane and I'm quite plain. She's from the mountains, so close to heaven. Clouds on her shoes, stars on her chest, and lovely Remy, she's a darling. Lovely Remy, she's a darling. She was in the Omen with Gregory Peck. She got killed, but what the heck? Her eyes are like gems. She's an actress, the screen gems, and lovely Remy, she's a darling. Lovely Remy, she's a darling. Hair's red, but it's not dyed. If I touched her, I know I'd wanna cry. My life is desperation, but it's only infatuation. Lovely Remy, she's a darling. Lovely Remy, she's a darling. Ba 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 ba, ba da 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 ba 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 ba, ba da 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 ba 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 ba, ba da 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 ba 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 ba. Lovely Remy, she's a darling. Lovely Remy, she's a darling. It was a sound that we were, it was a sound from necessity, you know. It was just Grant and I and like a variety of drummers, you know, for the first 2 years. And so it was just, I guess, a sort of like nakedness. Do you know what I mean? It was a sound that was primitive, and but it wasn't in some sort of you know, like a Melbourne dungeon or a London dungeon. You know, you can't make that here. Do you know what I mean? It's so you couldn't go for that enclosed dark thing. You just had to basically, you know, embrace what was here. And so, you know, like, you know, when you talk about, you know, the striped sunlight sound, it was just that primitive sound in Brisbane. So, you know, like and all the elements, you know, just had to come in.
I think right from the start, that simplicity, that's, you know, striped sunlight, clarity and stuff, that comes from pop music. And we used to do lots of Monkees covers, you know, in Robert's bedroom, and as well as Jonathan Richman and occasional Bob Dylan stuff, but lots of Monkees, and that was always simple and direct. So that's where, as far as I'm concerned, the pop side of things came from. I've always thought we were a pop band.
But before we played Remick, you know, and got up at, you know, like in Paddington at Bruner Hall in early, like 78, and we knew no one virtually in the city. You know, like we knew a few people at university. Both of us had lost complete contact with our school friends, and so we were sort of had a few uni friends and one or two other people. And then suddenly we played that show, you know, we got and played 2 songs, and suddenly we knew 100 people. You know, suddenly our friends, the amount of people that we knew just exploded over about a week. You know,
did.
It was like, and suddenly, you know, we had all these people that we knew, and we didn't know hardly anyone beforehand.
We were underground.
We were underground before the underground. Yeah. We actually played quite a lot here in the first 2 years, like you know, swimming pools, various colleges, parties, you know, houses,
pineapple plantations,
and wherever, you know, people had to be. It was people had to be inventive, you know, like where you could play, and so again, you know, like with Brisbane, that's the way the houses were. You could actually play in a house, you know, and bands, you know, still in Brisbane rehearse in houses, you know. So which is something you couldn't do in Melbourne as well, you know, or many other places of the world. You do it in San Francisco, you know, but then that's another era.
Well, just having seen, you know, Robert and his approach to things, I you know, I just thought that there's confidence there, you know, that it didn't matter what he was singing about. If it was a librarian, it was really confident and you really believed it. So I think I got that from the start. I mean, initially, of course, I was playing bass, so most of the things I was doing were kind of riffy things, and so like the logical thing to do was then, you know, put a melody to that riff sort of thing. So early on there were a couple of co-compositions, like the B-side of People Say was a bass riff of mine that Robert turned into a sort of Dylan pastiche. Don't Let Him Come Back.
Grant was writing so many great songs around this time that it was almost, in a way, one of many. And so it didn't have that lightning moment of God, you know, he's written something that's... And it's not really, you know, that much better than a lot of the other songs he was writing at that time. You know, they're on before Hollywood. And so it didn't really, like, you know, like, completely take my head off. You know, I just thought it was, like, a great riff, and he had a lot of great riffs. What really impressed me was the lyric, you know, like, he'd done Childhood, you know, which as another songwriter, I just went, damn, you know, like, do you know what I mean? It was like so obvious. You do Childhood, you know, and all my songs up until like 1983 are all now, me, and suddenly Grant had done, you know, and it was like that moment where I went, you know, why didn't I think of that, you know? But you know, that was his field. I mean,
you did discover me.
Well, he made that breakthrough. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, you know, it was like, this is going to sound a bit extreme. It's like, you know, another painter, and you go around to their house and you see that, you know, do you know what I mean? Like a whole breakthrough, and you stand there and you go, why didn't I think of that? You know, and it was great.
Just, I think I'd gone to boarding school, so I actually, that kind of severing of the home thing had happened, I think, a little earlier for me. But it's certainly singing about cane fields and livestock and stuff in London in 1982. It certainly brought a lot of warmth into me. You know, like it was a strange town, and like we were sort of trying to work our way through the sort of London music scene, and that song always, in some way, yeah, was, it carried sunshine in it, you know, and it just came so easy. It was, I was using someone else's guitar, and sort of, I remember showing it to Robert the next day, and it was just sort of... Yeah, it's always, I look forward to saying the word older every night. This was also around the time of our first brush with the English record industry as like a machine, you know, where they were starting to groom bands for commercial success. And, you know, we'd been on Rough Trade when Jeff Travis had signed the Smiths and had seen sort of what they'd gone through and stuff. And so there were various people always suggesting to us that, oh, you've got some pop songs, you should go into a good studio and, you know, do it proper, do it English sort of thing. So we lucked into this studio in the south of France, which was owned by a guy called Jacques Lussier, who had a band, well still does, called the Bach Trio. And they do sort of jazzy versions of classic, Bach music. And he had this castle, and John Anderson from Yes had, I think, designed the stained glass window. So it was a quite exotic experience for us. And that's unfortunately when I discovered Gitane cigarettes.
Right.
You know, wasn't until then. And also we were working with John Brand, who had produced Before Hollywood, and he just had a great success with Aztec Camera. And John was, I think, trying to make a major label kind of record. So when we were in the studio, there was a little bit of conflict early on in that recording.
Part Company I wrote quite soon after Before Hollywood, and it was sort of a step. I see it as an important song in what I've done. It was a little bit more lush, you know. It was a little bit more just sort of strummy, you know, where everything on Before Hollywood, you know what I mean? All of, you know, which is great, you know, but you know, like getting away from a little bit more all of that and just flowing a little bit more. And I just wrote the chord sequence quite soon after we'd done Before Hollywood, you know, before it'd come out, before the album had come out. Before Hollywood came out, I'd already written this, and it was just sort of a small, you know, you look back and you can see it as just a sort of change or you know, like it was just something new. So we should play it. We should play it. I'd like to play it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back the two guitars, with Grant going over to guitar, I think that and that goes on for the next, couple of albums. It starts there, Grant moving from bass over to guitar. So, those two guitars, the singing voices, and Lindy and Robert, it was, we could go on from there, It was, yeah. But we should do. Can we play Bachelor Kisses? I mean,
and the perverse side of the band comes into it, like you're saying our own sound. I mean, when you look at that record was made for Sire Records, and at the same time, Sire signed us. They signed Madonna, and I guarantee you on her first album, she might have had songs, pop songs like Bachelor Kisses or something, but she wouldn't have had River of Money, for example, and which is like a 6 to 7 minute piece of distortion with a spoken sort of prose kind of thing. So, I think right from the start, it wasn't only our own sound; it was we are unmarketable.
But at the same time, that's what we always liked in bands, art and pop. Okay.
And of course there was Bachelor Kisses.
Yeah.
And this was a strange one. Robert was talking to me about it the other day. That there are certain songs that stay with you, and I remember Bachelor Kisses because the record company were really nuts for the song. They thought it was a really sort of great pop song. So we recorded one version of it, and they didn't like it, and there was no middle eight in it. And just as a writer, I'd never had to write a song beyond just my subconscious kind of thing. So it was like, well, I finished this song, but now I've got to put another bit in it. So it was one of my first, I guess, professional songwriter kind of things, just, and I think it's been the death of me ever since.
No, I would agree.
No.
It's the brill building touch.
That's the brill building, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, he'll wait. works like that.
That's beautiful, beautiful. And by like say 1985, and we'd been there 3 years, you know, and after 3 years you sort of start to get to know, you know, a town even as big as London, you start to get to know a little bit, and we had a lot of confidence, and we wrote some very good songs. You know, for Liberty Bell, you know, would have to be one of our very best albums, and it had a lot of unfashionable things for at the time. You know, like this is 1985, and everyone was, you know, like was doing clocks and, you know, and you know, synths, and you know, like we had string section, vibraphone, organ, acoustic guitars, all of those things that in 1985, not, you know, like were really not used all that much, you know, and I think that helped. Like besides the songs,
I think the London Symphony Orchestra and us.
yeah, it was just a beautiful combination. Yeah, we did the recordings process in terms of you know, the way things were done in the 80s, in terms of harmony and group participation and enthusiasm and just an uncluttered approach. It was probably the best. It was just the four of us, backs against the wall. Here's somebody to make an album. No one's interfering too much from the outside world. You've got a good studio, you've got a good engineer, you've got, you know, and that was the basic makeup of the record. It sounds very simple, but it didn't happen much, especially in that time.
Yeah, well, it did seem to go well, but during that whole, during the recording of that, we lost a record company and like gained one, like in the space of making a record. And also you got really sick, so you couldn't do your vocals until...
Yeah, I did a lot of vocals on one day. That's why they all sound the same. But no, it was, yeah. But we should play, we'll play Head Full of Steam. And I wrote this, I was living in an attic in Highbury, and Grant was living in Hackney. Were you living in Hackney? 85. And the house I lived in was a bizarre cast of English people living by themselves between the ages of about 30 and 60. A completely bizarre bunch of characters. And the house was quite famous. It's in Highbury Barn. It was quite famous because Val Doonican lived there in the early 50s. And there were still people that sort of, you know, you'd sort of pass in the hall who'd sort of talk about, you know, at the time Val Doonican lived there. So, you know, there's a little bit of Val Doonican. If you hear that, you know, a little bit of the...
It's also your Prince period. Yeah. Don't forget that.
It is. It's Prince meets Val Doonican. It's Prince in a cardigan.
Yes, it's Prince in a cardigan.
That's the period we're talking. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, that was one that it's sort of funny. My grandmother, it's a true story. My grandmother used to play a little bit of golf, and she used to play out at Half Moon Bay, and I went out with her once, and she was a little bit of a hacker, you know, and she wasn't above getting out of the buggy and maybe nudging the ball, sort of, you know, just, but because her grandson, you know, please, Nana. I said, "Oh, Nana, you can't really do that." And she said, "It's too hot to be proud," you know. And I just remembered that, and Bye Bye Pride, it's also a bunch of chords which I've kind of used in a few songs like Cattle and Cane, and Right Here, more sort of drone kind of bass chords. So I guess now's as good a time as any to
Start the drone.
start the drone. And also it had some beautiful oboe on it, courtesy of Amanda Brown. So it was, this one could be a bit on the back porch, you know, a bit sort of bluesy because of the voice. You know what I'm saying?
You start again.
Yeah.
I'll come in.
Okay, I'll start it. like this new voice.
That's good. Sounding very Bob. You're getting new melodies on
I
it.
know. New melody there.
I know. Well, I think we had this sort of innate fear that if we left London, no one would ever give us a record deal again, you know, thinking back of Australia in the early 80s. But it suddenly like just dawned on us one day in London that we could actually go back to Sydney, go back to Australia, and Beggars Bank would send the money out. They're called bank transfers, I believe. And we could actually be in Sydney and operate as a band. You know, we didn't have to be, you know, going around the tube and doing all that sort of stuff. And so we relocated back to Sydney, end of 87, early 88, to start on 16 Lovers Lane.
Yeah, that was a real golden time. That was a great summer in Sydney, and it was the, you know, bicentenary, and so Sydney was all sort of on her best sort of, you know, in her best clothes. And the songs that we had, I think Robert and I, it's one of the closest periods of, in all the records we've done, where the songs in some way did have a dialogue within each other. And we had demoed most of the songs just acoustic before, and then sent them to Mark Wallace in London, and we actually brought him out to Australia, and yeah, it was a really lovely period. It was like welcome back to Australia, and you know, making a record for Mushroom Records, and it was yeah, we felt like it was good to be home.
Yeah. We almost discovered, well, I personally discovered that there was actually beaches in Sydney, because we'd always spent a lot of time in Darlinghurst, you know, and Surrey Hills and the Cross, and suddenly, you know, you realised that there was actually a road that went out through Paddington, past a place called Bondi Junction, and there was, you know, and there was like Bondi and Coogee and everything. It's just like, to me, that record's always there. Do you know what I mean? And which brings me, you know, like very neatly, almost too neatly, into the next song, Die For Your Memory, is that, which I wrote a lot of it in a Bondi hotel, which is looking out to out in the harbour of, you know, like, well, that beach at Bondi, just the, you know, the cliffs and everything. And I wrote the song there in Bondi. And it's a song I'm very proud of. I'm going to pat myself on the back here a little bit, okay?
Sure.
It's got and do a bit of music theory.
No, please.
And so it's
evens or odds?
No, evens.
Okay.
It starts off with a chord sequence that I still think is as good as anything I've written. Anyway, if I say so myself, 1, 2, 3, 4. Were any closer, if the water just wasn't so bad, I died for your memory on the rocks and on the sand. I died for you like a bird I would descend. waters of her dream are black and forgetful. I'd like to make those waters clean. So when I hear you sing that we stood no chance, I'll die for your memory. We stood that chance. So when I hear you sing that we stood no chance, I'll die for your memory. We stood that chance.
Yeah, it was a strange period at the end of the 80s, beginning of 1990, when the Robert and I sort of stopped the band. I guess in some way, personally, I only ever played with Robert. Like, the only band I'd ever been in was the Go-Betweens, and so I didn't know anything else. And I was sort of, I guess, 30, 31, something like that. So it was time to, I guess, grow up a little bit and spread your wings, play with some other people. Also on a really mundane level, to be able to do a whole album where you, it's like you can maybe look at the same thing from 9 or 10 different points of view, as opposed to working with Robert, where it was like the unwritten law was, half the album lyrics written by Robert, half written by me, sort of thing. So it was just an opportunity to sort of practice some liberty, I guess. Yeah, it was good. I don't think. One thing we didn't set ourselves was, like, we didn't sort of go looking for a big a deal with a label. We mightn't have got one anyway. We just wanted it to generate it ourselves. Always important with the Go-Betweens to have the right friends to play with, and we'd sort of met Adele. Well, I'd met Adele Pickvance through Robert and Warm Nights, and same with Glenn Thompson. And once Adele said yes, she was happy to play bass with us. Then, we ended up in Portland and Oregon, and working in Jackpot Studios with a really good rhythm section, Janet from Sleater Kinney. So it was, like, we didn't, and it wasn't like we were trying to make a jazz record or a reggae record or something. We hadn't changed. It was, we just went in and just pretty much bashed it out as fast as we like to record quickly normally, and it was effortless. Really was effortless.
It was. I think it worked for just the whole, where like Rachel Worth came from. Like, Grant was living in Australia and I was living in Germany. It was sort of nice because Grant came over to where I was living in Regensburg in Bavaria, and it was like snowy, and suddenly the band was sort of restarting in this sort of snow-driven medieval city, and which was like just so Go-Betweens, and right at the start of 2000, and then it went to Portland, again, just something completely weird, a new landscape. That felt great. Yeah, German Farmhouse, that ended up on the Friends of Rachel Worth, was a song I wrote in 1996, and I was in London in a recording studio with Edwyn Collins, and I was doing the last of what was going to be my solo albums, called Warm Nights, and I was in the studio with a guy. Things turn around with a guy called Dave Ruffy on drums, who ends up about 10 years later, he's a co-producer of Oceans Apart, but he was on drums and a woman called Claire Kenny on bass. And we just had a break in recording. It was early '96, and we must have stuffed off a take or anything or something. And I was just standing there with the guitar, and I just went just like that, and then everyone went, okay, you know, like take two. It's great. Great, and but take two, and it was just like a riff that I just went, okay, you know, like I just played all in one, and brought it back here, and the next strange thing of the story is that I actually finished a song about 2 blocks away in a house called in Bain Street, which is about 300 meters away from this house, where I wrote the rest of the song, and so I had the music for this song, and which I really loved the music. And I had to come up with the lyric, and I'd done this guy, I don't know who it was, phoned me from Melbourne, and I was doing an interview. It must have been for Warm Nights, and very early publicity or something. And he just sort of asked me what happened when the band broke up, you know, like in the end of '89, and where I'd gone to, what I'd done. And I just sort of just said, well, you know, I just lived in seclusion, you know, for a couple of years. You know, I was in a German farmhouse. And as soon as I started to say this to him, I knew that was the lyric to the song. You know, that just verbalizing something. And so
you steal your own life.
Yeah, I know. I steal my own life. And as soon as the phone call was over, as soon as I had that first line, you know, I lived in seclusion for a couple of years in a German farmhouse, just drinking beer. As soon as I had that, I just as soon as the phone was down, I wrote the whole lyric, and I knew what it was all about. And then this song, like that was in '96, and then the song, I don't record, you know, like I don't do anything else, you know, for about 4 years, and then, you know, we start the band again, and it's a song on Rachel Worth, which now is sort of, I see now as like a bridge from one time to another. So we'll start with the Edwyn Collins riff, and take it from there.
Well, you do the riff.
Okay, the German farmhouse. after Rachel Worth, I think it's important that Grant and I were in the same town. I think that is a major part. Just drives the band in a way, that proximity, and for the band to go on, and just to, and again it goes right back to the start of the band. I drive over to his place, in my car with a guitar in it. We should think of a new way of we should be on Pro Tools and some computer setup where we're emailing songs to each other, across Brisbane, but we just haven't got in it to do that. And so it's still the car and the guitar.
Yeah, I mean, too much of one thing's it's a good one to do actually, because sort of growing up in North Queensland, country music was I was exposed to a lot of country music, and I remember Robert for many years just couldn't stand country music in a way. I mean, there was certain country music that he liked, and
Nashville Scholar.
Well, that is strange country music. That is spooky country music.
It is.
Yeah. And occasionally, Robert's got into it, and I think now he sort of listens to more country than I do. But this song, Too Much of One Thing, I had a chord progression, and I had the
great chord progression.
Yeah, and I had the melody for it as well, and I played it to Robert, and Robert just like straight away said, "Oh, can you play it again? Can you play it again?" And I said, "Yeah, all right," but I imagined this song as in 7 to 8 minutes. I always thought it was kind of a long storytelling song, and Robert really got it. Anyway, the next day he came back and he'd written all the lyrics for the song, sort of pushed me out of the lyric writing process, and actually gave me the middle 8 bit, which is just like baby talk. So it's too much of one thing anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that gap, that sabbatical, that intermission, whatever we want to call it, you know, like I see it as, you know, like part one, part two sort of thing, and who knows, there might be a third part, I don't know, but that intermission period, I think, really allowed Robert and I to just get some more experience, get a bit more life, like be outside the bubble, the rock bubble. I think, I mean, not everyone falls victim to it, but if we'd have, like, if the band had stayed together and we were probably on our 15th album or something as opposed to our 9th, I think, I'd like to think we'd have been still doing good work, but I think we would have been dreadfully tired and sort of exhausted and sort of mining probably the same seam over and over again. So I think to be able to, like this, to be our 9th record puts us more in a, like the same sort of scene as bands who are in their mid-30s. You know, they're probably up to around their 8th or 9th album sort of thing. So it's it feels great. It's like it's always new with us, you know, like, because it always comes down to Robert bringing in a riff or a song or me doing it, you know. So it's that every day is something new comes along.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think the 11 years that we didn't play together and stopped is a whole key, you know, which probably people don't realise. You know, I think it's, and Grant's right, it stopped us. We could go away and do a whole lot of other things for a whole decade. And we both learned a lot, and we came back hungry and fresh. And he's right, like a lot of bands just, it just gets stale. And so we were really lucky. But it came from Here Comes the City. And Grant, I wrote it and went over to Grant's place, and it just had something special. And then we took it in the practice room, and it had something special again. And when we were doing it, Grant just said, you know, like the idea of going to London and doing a session, we were doing a show over there. This is in the middle of 2003. And we just, this just felt like a breakthrough song. As Grant said, we're in the practice room, and it was the sort of song where we kept playing it you invent reasons like, I don't think the bass drum's right about 2 minutes 30. Let's play it again. And so everyone played it, and then, you know.
Well, you were.
Yeah, I know. And we ended up playing it about 6 times in a row, you know, because it just sounded like new to us. It just had this whole feeling that we'd never had, you know. And I know, like people say that it has like a Talking Heads, you know, like 1979, 1980 feel to it. But then, you know, like really what Talking Heads were doing in 1980, we weren't really doing what to an extent, or we were, but we
were doing what they were doing in 1975.
Yeah, but we never really got it, you know, and this one does. So anyway, we'll play. It just starts with the riff is the whole thing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Churches that was one, and the other one was Finding You, which I think is a good place to stop.
Yeah, I guess that was. Well, as you
This is
say,
a groovy song. This is a very groovy song that Grant's written. It is.
I guess I mean, it's the AM hit, isn't it?
That's the AM hit.
I don't think you can play AM in shades.
Well, this is a beautiful chord sequence. All right.
Oh, and it features when we first did this, Robert had a this big old keyboard, a sort of early '80s keyboard, and he had a sound on it like a Japanese mandolin or something. And when you hear the riff, like somehow he's managed just through sheer technique to get that Japanese mandolin sound.
It's a little bit like a kabuki.
Yeah, kabuki.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Beautiful.
The Future.
Okay, hang on.
Is that Leonard Cohen song?
That's Finding You. Grant, The Future.
The Future.
Give it to him. Give it to him.
Well, in the Go-Betweens world, the future is always, gentleness. Beyond the music, like if you're a Go-Betweens fan, I really think that in the next couple of years, we're going to vindicate your love of us. I think we've still got a lot of work to do. Robert and I constantly talk about like what the next thing's going to be, and I mean, with us, it could be a soundtrack to a 5-hour French movie, you know, shot in Morocco, you know, and that would be a great Go-Betweens move. Or who knows, we could end up writing songs for the OC or something, you know, like there's all sorts of things up ahead, and because we don't pigeonhole ourselves, and also where we are at the moment is the band is great. Like Robert and I just constantly look, you know, at each other on stage and just see Glenn and Adele just rocking the house, you know, and some of those things that you know, we were talking about earlier about confidence and Here Comes the City being a like signature sort of thing. I think a lot of that's due to the fact that just as a unit we're really comfortable and really pushing each other. So I think the future is so bright that I'm not going to wear shades.